Hello guys, today we're going to be working on this Tableau Whirlpool washer. The complaint is that it's not going through the spin cycle or it's taking too long to fill up with water. The model number is on the display. Welcome to DIY Repair Now. Read all the warnings, and during this video you will see one or more of these icons to help you do this repair safe. The first thing we need to do is run a test mode. We're going to go ahead and put the timer to the 9 o'clock position. To do this, we're going to turn the knob 360 degrees like so until we reach to 9 o'clock position. Once we get here, we're going to go step by step, and we're going to start by 1, 2, 3, 4 back, 5 forward. After you do that, these lights are going to start flashing. If they are not flashing, that means you did it wrong, because you have to be precise in every step. If you don't get the test mode at the first try, keep trying until you get the lights flashing. Then we're going to go to the next step. This step is for you to get error codes. Certain amount of lights are going to start flashing and it will give you an error code. However, I never use this setting because it's not accurate for me. Then we go to the second step, and this will run a quick test mode. That means it will run water and do everything, but it's too quick and it's never accurate for me either. So we're going to go to the next one, which is the third step, which is manual. This manual mode will allow you to go step by step manually like so. If you press start, all the lights are going to turn off, and that one means that you're already in manual test mode. Then we're going to go ahead and test the door lock. We press play, and as you see, the door is locked. And now we're going to go to the next step, and it's test the water valve. Make sure the water valve supply from the house is open, that way you get water in the tub. And when we press play, there's water coming in, but you can hear that it's kind of weak, very little water coming in into the tub. The next one is to test the hot water side, and we are getting hot water. Another one is no test allowed there because all the lights are flashing. When those lights are flashing, that means nothing is to check right there until we get to this point right here, and this is how we check our drain pump. Now after we check the drain pump, we're going to press play again to stop the test like in every other test. And the next one, lights are flashing, so it's nothing to check there. But this one right here is to check the spin cycle. Now there's two steps to check the spin cycle, and this one is to test the spin cycle in a lower RPMs. Now here we have the drum spinning, and we're going to press play, and we're going to wait until the drum stops to give it the next test. Now on this step, it checks the spin cycle on a higher RPMs, but we already see that it's working when we check for the lower RPM, so we're going to pass that. Right now it's still spinning, and if it's still spinning, it will not go to any other test. It doesn't matter where you put it. This is the agitation, this is high agitation, and this is low agitation. So but you have to wait until the drum stop spinning. Now as you see, I press play, but it's not going to start the agitation cycle until the drums stops. And as you can hear, is working in higher and lower agitation. You can hear it right there. Finish with the test mode. Just press play and hold it for 3 seconds, and then we'll get out of the test mode. Everything should be done. After we ran a manual test mode, the only thing that didn't pass the test was the cold water coming in. It was very low and weak. So you might wonder why it works fine on the wash cycle, but it doesn't work good on the rinse cycle. And the reason why is because the rinse cycle is only done with cold water. So since the wash cycle use hot water and cold water, it might work good, but then when it gets to the rinse cycle, it stops working, or it takes a very long time for it to rinse the clothes down. Sometimes it stops in the middle of the cycle and your clothes is all wet. So now we're going to go ahead and remove the water hoses and check the water valve itself. It has 2 filters, one on the cold side and one on the hot side. Make sure your water valves are closed when you're going to disconnect the water hoses. If these water valves that are part of the house are not working right, you got to go ahead and shut the main source of the water, which is by the street. So now we got the cold water, which is the one we are wondering, because the hot side did bring some water in, but the cold side was very low pressure. So At this point, I already have removed this filter and cleaned it out. I just didn't got that on the video, but you can see there is still, I cleaned it up really good, and then it was more water coming in, but then after a little while it was weak again. So I tried it without the filter and see how much pressure we are getting, and put the water back on, the water hose back in, and open the water valve, and we're gonna see how much pressure is. And this is what I'm saying, I tried it with the filter clean. That filter was very, very dirty. I just didn't catch that on camera, like I said before. And as you can see, it's still, without the filter, very low water pressure are coming in. And this is the reason why when it's on the rinse cycle, it takes a very long time for it to finish a whole cycle. So you might wonder why my washer is taking too long for a single cycle. When a normal cycle should take about 45 minutes up to an hour, it takes 2 or 3 hours. And this is the reason why, because to get to the rinse cycle, since it only use cold water, it takes forever. Now we're going to remove these 3 screws that are holding this back panel to have access to the water valve. So we're just going to lean this back, and remember, go ahead and close your water valves. Now we're going to use a putty knife, and we're going to release some clamps that I'm going to give you details on how to, unclamp this part. It has 2 metal clamps on each side, and with the putty knife, you basically pushing them and releasing them. Always take pictures before you remove any wirings or remove any mechanical compartments. And over here, we're going to go ahead and close both water valves, because this is a dual water valve, which means that the cold side and the hot side are one piece. So we have to close both water valves to be able to replace this water valve. Now we're going to go ahead and use a screwdriver or a needle nose pliers to be able to remove the harness or the wire connections, however you want to call it. They are connected into the water valve. Now, some water valves brings the whole harness. Some water valves you will have to reuse the harness. In this case, I just noticed that the new water valve brings all this harness that goes attached all the way to the main board. So I just give you an example in case your water valve doesn't bring the harness, how you remove those terminals from the water valve using a flathead screwdriver or a needle nose pliers. This is the part that we're going to be installing today, and this is the part number. You can find a link in the description of this video if you want to replace it, if you got the same model number, which the model number is at the beginning of the video, if you want to double check that. Now we remove the water hoses and make sure you put them in a bucket or in a piece of rag. That way you don't make a mess, because water would be draining from those water hoses. Now we're going to use a T-Torque screw to be able to remove the water valve. You can find those screws on Home Depot or Harbor Freight. I'm going to go ahead and put a link in the description of this video. You can buy the set. I believe it's the T15 or T16 T-Torque screw that I'm using with my drill, but you can also use a screwdriver. Now we're going to go ahead and put the water valve in place and install the 2 screws that are holding the water valve in place. And as I was telling you, this water valve brings the harness, so you don't have to reuse the old harness for this part. It goes in the board. Back in the days, they didn't bring the harness either, so we have to swap it into the other one. But since this one brings a sensor in between of the water valve, they incorporate the harness. So that's pretty handy. You don't have to remove the terminals from the water valves. Now we're going to go ahead and install the water supply with the 2 hot and cold. Make sure you don't swap it. Make sure you put the cold side where it goes and the hot side where it goes. Now we're going to go ahead and tighten it with this channel locks. Make sure you don't over tighten it, because you can damage the gasket in those water hoses. And now we're going to go ahead and install this panel in place, and as you can see, it has a male to female connection in each side, like this kind of legs, do we call it. And then we're going to go ahead and put the back part first, and then I'm going to go ahead and give you details on how these clamps are released when you are put the putty knife underneath to be able to take it off. You don't need it to put it back on, but I'm just gonna show you the way how it's done at the beginning. You see how it pushes when you press the putty knife, it presses the clamp and it releases the top of the panel. Very easy. You just need one of those putty knife. You can get it at Dollar Tree or Home Depot. Now we're gonna go ahead and install the 3 screws and the back panel. And at this point, we're pretty much done. This is the old water valve. As you can see, the hot side did have some gunk too, and pieces of rubbers and things that comes in the water. And the cold side, I cleaned it out. It was even worse than the hot side. I'm sorry, I just didn't get that on camera, but you saw that I use it with the filter clean, without the filter, and there was still no water coming in. This is the way you remove it. If you was wondering, sometimes it's very hard to remove those filters without damaging the filter itself, but I use a needle nose. You might have another idea on how to do it, but this is the way I do it. In this case, we had to replace the whole water valve. Now we're gonna go ahead and open the water valves, and this repair is almost done. Now I'm gonna go ahead and show you how to recalibrate the washer in case your washer needs to recalibrate after a repair, but you don't have to do it. It's just if the water goes off balance because you were moving it around, you might have to recalibrate it, but I don't recommend recalibrate it if it's not asking for it. Now I'm going to show you how to calibrate a Whirlpool washer. In the first footage, you're going to see the original video. That way you guys can see how fast I did it, but then I'm going to show you how to do it in a slow motion. However, to put this test calibration mode, you have to watch the first footage because that's how fast you have to do it. The first thing you need to do is turn the knob 360 degrees until you reach 12 o'clock position. Then you go 1 back, 2, 3, 4, 5 back, 6 forward. Now you're gonna hear a click. That means you're already in calibration test mode, and then you're gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4 into a 6 o'clock position and press play. You're gonna hear another click, and the lights are gonna start flashing, and you're gonna hear a couple sounds. It's gonna bring a little bit of water, and it's gonna do the calibration. I'm gonna leave you the whole process. That way you guys can hear the sounds, all the water coming in, and all the noises that it make. The way you know for sure that you are doing things right. I'm gonna go ahead and leave this process into a finish. Keep in mind that this can take a long time, and sometimes it can take between 15 and 20 minutes, no more than 20 minutes unless something is wrong. So you can hear that it's doing his thing, is kind of turning, calibrating, sensing, and things like that. So my suggestion is leave it alone, don't touch it until it finish. Another thing that I want to mention is that in my experience, I never have to do a calibration after a washer repair, but then in the later repairs, for some reason, customer said that it was still kind of wobbling, and then I would have to come back and do a calibration mode. Now, in one of those returns that I have to come back and do a calibration mode, everything stops and everything, but another issue begins on the board. So my suggestion is replace the water valve, but don't do a calibration unless it's necessary. That's my experience, and then you do it however you want to do it. All right, guys, that's basically it for this video. When you see that lid lock light flashing, that means it's almost done, and you will hear now the click and the light will turn off. Alright guys, if this video helped you in any way, you can show us appreciation by giving us a tip using the following options that you see on the screen. If you cannot provide with a tip, is another way to support this channel by just dropping off a comment in the comment section down below. Subscribe to our channel, give us a thumbs up, and turn on the bell to receive notifications. Thanks for watching.